Hey, everybody, this is Rudy Sarzo, and you're watching the Network 317 podcast.
We have a top shelf superstar bassist here with us tonight, and hopefully I get this introduction right. This dude has played with Quiet Riot, Ozzy, White Snake, Dio, Blue Oyster Cult, Ingrid Malmsteen, Colt, Jeff Tate's Queensryche, the Guess Who. Wow, man. Mr. Rudy Sarzo, how are you doing?
How are you doing, Ross? How you doing?
Doing well. Getting ready for
Where,
this.
where are you?
I'm in Indianapolis.
Indianapolis. I love it. I have a lot of great memories playing the Market Square Arena.
Wow, dude. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just honored you remember our little bitty city.
That's a cool city. I mean, it's one of those, to me, it's like a cool Chicago.
Yeah, you're right.
There was a theater across the street also that we played there. I played there with Ozzy in 1981 there at the theater. And then we came back and we did Market Square Arena for the first time. Then I came back with Quiet Riot. Let's see, that was 82. The following year, I came back with Quiet Riot. And we had been on the road with Loverboy. And for some reason, we didn't get picked up for the second leg of their tour. So we were left with like 4 or 5 weeks with no gigs. So our agent scrambled to put together a headlining tour, Quiet Riot. And one of the bands that we had on headlining on our tour, as a special guest, was Queensryche. They had just come out with the EP Queen of the Reich, and they were a support act. But when we did we got booked into the Market Square Arena. And I had played there with Ozzy the year before, so I thought, oh my God, this is a huge venue. I mean, this is our first headlining tour.
Right.
What are they thinking? So, it was one of those cases. Okay, don't worry, we'll put the curtain. The dreaded curtain that limits, let's say if the Market Square Arena was over 10,000 people. So the curtain, you can make it 2,000 if you wanted to, or 4,000. Right. So as soon as you start selling more tickets, they move the curtain back. Well, by the time we did the gig, we were playing In the Round. It's the first album. We had just released the record. We didn't have enough songs for a headlining arena show. And so also we had Nazareth as our support. That was the bill. Nazareth and us, Quiet Riot headlining. And it was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Well, we just gave it our best shot, and it was oversold out, and the audience was just unbelievable, and it was an unforgettable evening.
Wow. Man, I'm going to have to do some research and figure out what theater was across the street from Market Square.
The street. I think it was the Market Square Theater, a theater in the square.
Yeah, that's wild because now, believe it or not, they've tore all of that downtown. There used to be the big Marion County building downtown. Mm-hmm. Then there was Market Square Arena. They've taken all that out, made it all condominium buildings now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really wild. We'll drive down through there with my kids. I'm like, I used to hang out and get tickets all night, wait in line in Market Square Arena. And, of course, the only thing they see now is apartment buildings. But
yeah, it's there was a hotel right next to it that we, the band stayed there. Was that at a Holiday Inn?
Now, it could have been because I think, what would that be? Southeast. There is a hotel there. It's not very big. That would have probably been Caddy Corner or from Market Square Arena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, it was very close.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that, man. Now you're making me think. I tell you what, how you've been in all these bands, all these tours, all over the world. You just blown my mind the first 2 minutes of this interview. How in that world do you retain all this memory as going all the way down to knowing how many people can fit in Market Square Arena if you pull the curtains back? I mean, dude, you played a lot of venues in your lifetime. Like, how in the world would you know that about Market Square Arena in Indianapolis?
Well, I mean, if you spend most of your life, I mean, I didn't start touring at that level until 1981. I was I had just turned 30. So if you spend 30 years of your life working up towards something and you finally get the opportunity to do it, not only are you going to remember everything, but you're going to be sober enough to remember everything. And I really appreciate it. Not wasted. I mean,
Right.
if I really wanted to lead a wasted human being life, I would have not worked so hard at trying to make it in the music industry.
Sure.
I was living in Florida before I decided to, okay, I want to be a recording rock artist. It ain't going to happen playing disco in Miami. I have to go to Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, yeah, because you come from Cuba, correct?
I was born in Cuba. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, with Miami in the 70s being the epicenter of drugs and sex, it was missing the rock. That's what it was missing from
Sure.
from Miami.
Sure.
So you had sex and drugs. I could have just stayed there if that's the lifestyle that I wanted to work my way up to. Why struggle when it
Yeah.
was? I mean, I was playing a lot of discotheques with a lot of bands, and everybody was like really comfortable. Oh, I got my Corvette, and I got my apartment, and I got all these chicks, and I got all this drugs, and I'm going like, yeah, but you ain't rocking. You
Sure.
know?
Sure. Sure.
So so yeah, that's why I remember everything, because it's all very significant and it's all been a blessing.
Right on. What is the day in the life of Rudy Sarzo? How does your day begin and how does it end
How does
every
it
day?
begin? It begins pretty much the same way it ends. It begins with me praying, being grateful for have another day, and just centering myself, preparing myself for the day. And my little dog comes over and gives me some little kisses. I have a
Sure.
Yorkie. And then once I hit the ground, I make breakfast, and then I watch like 2 or 3 minutes of the news. That's all I need,
Right.
especially
These days.
nowadays. It's pretty, it's basically Groundhog Day. It's all the
Sure.
same thing. I
Sure.
just want to make sure it hasn't turned from Groundhog Day to Escape from LA yet.
You just
I
hit
make,
you just hit that right on the head.
I want to make sure. Okay, it is what it is, and we'll get out of this. Okay, and then immediately as I'm having breakfast, I go over to YouTube and watch music tutorials.
Ah, okay. So you still basically learn, right? I mean,
Still,
eh,
it's a journey. As long as you're breathing, you might as well learn. Because
that's
once you
great.
stop learning, that's when you stop breathing.
Sure. And I guess you could say that's why you've lasted this many years, man, in the industry. There's been so many players come and go, come and go, and come and go. You've outlasted a lot, man. You
See,
really have.
lasting to me, it's not the word that I mean, it's okay. That's the word that you want to use. To me, lasting sounds like soap. You get the new bar of soap, and it lasts for such a certain amount of time. Sometimes I make the soap last a little bit longer than it should, because maybe I put like 2 pieces of soap together. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
But it's not as potent as when you first get that bar of soap. And to me, the thing is to not only be the better bar of soap as time goes on,
Right.
not just wear out its potency in making you clean
Makes
and
sense,
smell
man.
good.
I like your analogies.
I'm running out of analogies because I
Had,
do a lot of podcasts.
right,
So
man.
I want to say, you know what? I want this one to be different, not
Yeah.
a cookie cutter podcast.
Right, 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 right,
Plus, I have my own show.
right.
My 6 Degrees of Sarzo on Monsters of Rock Radio. So I do a lot of talking,
Yeah, yeah.
and I want to just make it a little bit different.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah. With ours, man, you can just hang out, talk about anything. Of course, we'll hit on topics, we'll hit on your career, but it's basically, just lay it on the line, whatever you
I
want to talk
thought
about.
I thought we were already doing that.
Hey, right. Hey, how do you play in so many bands and not get lost in the shadows? And I tell you why I'm going to ask this. From the first time I've seen you play and just moving forward all these years, you've never been the kind of musician to stay in the background. You've always been that musician that's always up in the front. You've never been back there just hiding by your amps and the speakers. You've always been out there in the front. How do
Yeah.
you not get lost in all of that?
Yeah, and interesting you used the shadow analogy, because I was a mass communication major in college, Miami-Dade, and I just got into the Hall of Fame, which is, to me, it really means a lot, because actually what it means is I I got an education from this school. Then I went out into the world, and eventually I was able to apply what I learned. It's really interesting about getting an education in any field is you might not use everything that you learn in school, but give it time. At some point it will come, that everything that you learn, all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I can apply this to writing the book that I wrote, Off the Rails. I had to learn in mass communication, creative writing. And now that I have the radio show, I had to learn how to be a DJ, a radio personality. That was part of the program. Television, we had to learn how to light up a set. Not any different than lighting up a stage.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time that I started playing arenas, I'm going, oh, this is like set lighting. So the shadow analogy really applies, because I knew that as long I could see a shadow on the stage, I was being properly lit. Always look for the spots. And then I learned where the crosses were on stage, and that for certain songs I could stand there and I would be, even if I'm not hit by the follow spot, and I'm talking about the early days with Ozzy.
Sure.
I learned that. That was that, those two tours that I did, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, I would say that I learned about 95% of everything that I've learned in the music industry from those two tours. And not just on stage, but also off stage. I learned a lot from Sharon. This is before she was even married to Ozzy. We're talking 1981. They got married in 1982, July 4th. And so, yeah, that was really going to school for me. That was really an education.
That's great. Mm-hmm. Has there been a moment where you're like really kicking butt on stage and just killing it in the moment, and then you just realize you're playing a song that you're part of, but it's from another band that you played with?
I've never been that high.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was not if you've ever been high, but if you've ever, because you've done so much with so many bands that I just
No. I mean, there's a lot of things that go through my head. Like if I get too into the music, which is what I aim for, I get transported by the lyrics. Like when I used to play with Dio, Ronnie James Dio's lyrics were cinematic. With a lot of like visuals and landscapes, and just to hear him deliver that message or embody the character that he's singing about, the man on the silver mountain, just to be standing next to him. It's an energy, it's a frequency that he spins on, and you just put yourself rise to that frequency, and you're both together, and then all of a sudden you're transported to where he is in his head. All of a sudden you're in Ronnie James Dio's head, and he's singing about being on the silver mountain, and you're standing next to him on the silver mountain. To me, that is the ultimate experience as a musician, to be one with the music.
Right. Okay. At what point in your career did you go, wow, here I go, like that wow moment for you?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question, because the first time was on somebody else's journey, was with Ozzy. I was basically stepping into what other music, Bob Daisley, because Tommy Alders and I came in at the same time, so he stepped into whatever Lee Kerslake had done contribution-wise, mm-hmm. recording on those records, and mine was Bob Daisley. And in addition, we used to do some Black Sabbath too. So yeah, I was experiencing Ozzy's journey of becoming a successful solo artist, having departed from Black Sabbath. So it wasn't like oh wow, here I am, but it was more like, oh, there he goes. And I'm part of this, so I'm gonna enjoy it, but also experience it, and knowing that it's because of him, and everybody else that had contributed to his career prior to me joining the band, and of course Randy Rhoads.
Sure.
But it wasn't until the Metal Health version of Quiet Riot, when Metal Health, the record, came out. And we started out in driving ourselves in station wagons for about a month, doing shows up and down California and Los Angeles, San Francisco area, and stuff like that. And then we got an RV when we went on tour supporting the Scorpions. And we drove the RV from LA to Duluth, Minnesota, to start the tour. And this was the deal. Scorpions were on the road for about 2 or 3 weeks, warming up to the US Festival, the 1983 US Festival.
Yeah.
US Festival. People get confused and they go, "Oh, you mean you played on the Oz without?" No, this is the US Festival.
Yeah, do your homework.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, different generations watch and listen to this podcast.
You're
so
right.
I have to make a specific, clear that up. And so we toured with the Scorpions. They were doing an arena tour. And by the time they got to Denver, which was the last gig we did off their tour, the promoter, Barry Fay, who was the local promoter in Denver, he was also in charge of putting the bands together for the US Festival. And they, a few days before we got there, Joe Walsh was moved from the Metal Day to the following day, which is more like the David Bowie and Stevie Nicks day, bands like that. I think he was better suitable to be on that then, rather than playing with Van Halen and Scorpions and Judas Priest and Ozzy and so on. So there was an opening, and as we're performing, I could see the promoter on the side of the stage, and I go, "Oh, that's nice. He's digging us. That's cool." And then after the show, he goes, "Listen, I have this opening for the US Festival. Would you guys like to do it?" And we immediately rearranged our schedule because we only had like a 2-day notice to make that show. We had to rent equipment and so on. So we played there, and that gave us an exposure of 350,000 people. That kind of like that was the very beginning of getting major exposure. There were many things that came into place. One of them was there was a TV show called Friday Nights, and it was live, and they recorded our segment at the Perkins Palace in Los Angeles. Playing in LA, we got in contact with the local Quiet Riot fan club that went back to the Randy Rhoads days. And so if you look at it's on YouTube. You go Friday Nights Quiet Riot. You see us playing live, and you see the fan club. They brought banners and
I'll
posters,
check that out.
It's pretty cool. And we even got nominated for an Emmy television. Yeah, it's an Emmy, and for sound for that show.
Wow.
I don't think we won, but at least we got nominated.
Of course.
So we were on a roll. These it was kind of like serendipity. All these little moments coming together. We're gathering steam, and then when we did the Common Field and Noise video, that really put us over the top. And now what's happening is it's kind of like, okay, I was with Ozzy 81, 82. All of a sudden I'm with Quiet Riot in 83, and I'm saying, wait a minute. If we keep going in this direction, I sing this because I saw it with Ozzy, especially in 1981 with the Blizzard of Odds tour, because we started pretty humble, doing theaters, and not all of them were sold out or anything. So the popularity of Ozzy was word of mouth. Back in the day, bands could actually tour within a 100 miles, distance from gig to gig. So 100 miles will be like an hour and a half or 2-hour drive. So if somebody saw our show Thursday night, they will, they might catch us at the next gig, which is like 2 hours away, on Saturday, because we might skip one day or, play somewhere and then, come over and get closer to their area the following day, from a Thursday to a Saturday. So that, watch that's when to answer your question, when did it happen that I was starting to realize, things are really picking up for us here as a band, not just even personally, but what we're doing here as a group. And so yeah, so that was that moment. And of course, by November, we hit number one, which is a brand new experience. I never experienced what it's like to be on the top of the charts. Especially at a time where you had to sell over 1 million copies to go to number one in 1 week.
Wow. In
Yeah.
1 week.
1 week. Yeah. We had to, uh, we were on the top three records at that time, at that moment that we hit number one. I definitely, one of them was Thriller, and the other one I believe was Synchronicity. So, some of the biggest selling records in the music history. So, but then what happens is you're so busy keeping it, keeping that energy, that you just really don't have time to look back and say, as it's happening, say, wow, this is great, blah, blah, blah. No, you're just thinking ahead.
Yeah.
What, how we can sustain this. Where do we go now? What's the next level? You're just focusing on succeeding because you're on a roll.
Right. All right. Wow. Would you say you paved the way bass players play today?
Oh, no. No. I mean, maybe as a performer, I might have inspired some people to pick up on certain, I was having this conversation with my brother Robert, who's a guitar player of the band Hurricane, and I call it monkeying around. Monkeying around, doing like in Spanish is monerías, acting like a monkey, doing like certain things like playing upside down.
Yeah.
Because
Oh yeah.
I developed those techniques or monkeying around in clubs. And I say clubs because back in when my brother and I, we were playing in bars in Florida, you would do like 6 sets a night. It's like 45
Wow.
minutes on, 15 minutes off. So, and they were late clubs, because Florida had this drinking law that you could drink 24 hours a day, bars were open, back in the 70s. And you start your set at 10 o'clock at night, and then you're finished by 4 o'clock.
Damn, that's a long night.
That's a long night. So by 3, 4 o'clock, I'm trying to keep myself awake. So I just say, you know what, I'm going to play this whole set upside down, holding the bass like that, just to keep myself awake. Like, how many times can I play Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo here? Or whatever song happened to be popular at the time. So it was, yeah. So I developed all of that, playing on the floor, playing upside down, playing I used to play behind my back, behind my.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All of that, and it's like,
just to stay awake.
Just to stay awake. So
wow.
Yeah, for that, yeah, I might have done some kind of inspiring people just to be a little, basically to have fun with it. There's no limitations to how you're going to play your instrument. Of course, remember that if you play it, if you do things like that, respect the audience and respect the band by making sure that you sound exactly the same as if you were standing still.
Wow. Yeah. And that's, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, don't sacrifice the band for you having that moment that like, you're doing something different.
That's why I was asking that question is, like you said, you played on the ground, on your head, with your bass guitar turned around. And there's a lot of bass players that play that way, and that's why it struck me to ask you that, like, hey, you think you paved the way?
Eventually they'll get tired of doing that.
Hey, maybe they do it to stay awake too, and they just don't realize
right.
That's why you done it.
Yeah. Like people ask me, why do I lick my fingers when I play? And it's a habit that I picked up when I was living in Florida. And again, coming in at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, I was living with my parents. when I was still in Florida. So I was like, I don't want to wake him up. It's 4 o'clock. I'm not gonna like open the trunk of my car and pull the bass and then shut down the trunk. So I'll just park it right here in the driveway and leave my bass in Florida weather, which is, easily in the summer it gets to 110, plus
Yeah.
the humidity, plus all of the gunk from playing in bars in the 70s when people still smoked, that, and playing flat wound strings, because that's what was available back then. We didn't have the round wounds in early 70s in Florida yet because of distribution. It wasn't as big of a market yet. So yeah, so I started licking my fingers because I would open up the case once I got to the club the next day, and my bass the strings would be like barbed wire. It would be all
Wow.
rusty and mossy, and I'm going, you know what? I started licking my fingers so just to get some kind of a lubrication.
Wow. Did you get any flavor from the night before on them strings?
A lot of smoke. They're a
That's
little
great.
smoky.
Yeah. Hey, this might be a hard question. What has been one of your favorite songs that you've been a part of?
You know what? I always look at the set as a whole,
Okay.
and I must enjoy the set from the from the very first to the very last note of the set. It has to be that joyous moment. It's not like, okay, I'm waiting for song number 7, and then
Right.
song 7 comes up and it's over, and it's like, oh, okay, what now? I've never done that.
What made you get into music, man? Like, what made Rudy Sarzo decide, I want to do that? Did you see a performer, an artist, and just, decide from that moment on you wanted to do that?
To be a musician,
Yes.
the Beatles. I I wanted a shortcut to be appreciated by the girls. I was a chubby. Nah, I was fat. I
Uh,
wasn't fat. I mean, now it might be considered chubby. Back in the early '60s, I was fat. Uh, little kid from Cuba that wanted to be noticed. I was invisible at the time.
right.
Nobody like paid attention to me, And I thought, I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan 1964, and I said, I want that. I want that adulation. I just want to be loved. I mean, this it's at the core of every human being. We want to be acknowledged. We want to be loved. And so I thought, okay, I'll do this, and for a while, and at some point, I will be loved, and then I don't know what else I want to do. And okay, so that was like around 13. Years passed by, and I just fall in love with the instrument. It wasn't about the admiration or adulation anymore. It's about the realizing what it actually means to be a musician, and it hasn't stopped. Never, ever. As a matter of fact, it grows. It gets stronger every day.
Yeah. Now, were you 13 when you started playing the bass?
Well, I was 13 when I first got the bug to become a musician or a chick magnet, if you want to put
Right.
it. Yeah. And life is a journey. You learn a lot. I mean, when you're 13 years old, you don't even realize that. Let's see, I'm going to be 70, so that's 47 years later. You
Damn.
know,
47 years, man. Wow.
and 47 years later, this is we're talking about it. And it's a journey. It's a journey. It really is, and it's yeah, it is a blessing.
Yeah. It's been one heck of a
It is.
journey for you, man. All the
Yeah,
accomplishments, all the bands, and
yeah, and I'm
you,
not done yet. I'm far from being done.
are you working on anything with the Guess Who right now? Are you guys doing anything?
Well, we were on tour the last time we played. We we were at the Epcot Center in Orlando, Disney World, and we were doing a residency there, which we do every year. And we were supposed to end on Thursday. That was going to be our last show, Thursday. Yeah, something like that. And so by Wednesday, we get a call from management that Epcot wanted to extend our residency until Sunday, because Sunday was they were going to shut the park down after Sunday night. Sunday night at 9 or whatever, it closed. That was it. So instead of bringing in a band that was going to be there from I believe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or even Tuesday. That's right. So, instead of having them come in and just cut them off in the middle of their engagement, they just ask us to stay a couple of days longer and then finish off, you know, until they close the park down because of COVID.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I came home on Monday, and you could see the trickle. I mean, when we started playing, I have a photo of like it was all, you know, the all the seats were full and it's packed. And by the last show, there was like Sunday night, it was like maybe 10 people in the audience.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because, you know, people stopped going or went home, you know.
You were part of the Hired Guns documentary, correct?
Yes, I was.
Speaking of the hired guns, which would you prefer, or which do you think has a better weight behind it? Being a hired gun to where you can do your business with this band and then go off to do, you know, another project with another band, or just be committed to one band?
Looking at the documentary and you know, when I did my segment, I had no idea what anybody else's participation was going to be like. I knew that, you know, certain names were actually going to be part of the documentary. And so my impression from watching the documentary was that not only mine, but everybody else's, like Steve Lukather, I'm just going to name a couple of names. Steve Lukather, Ray Parker Jr. I mean, you're looking at, for example, in Ray's case, he's known for Ghostbuster, being a singer. He's actually a guitar player.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he was a prodigy. So he started playing with Stevie Wonder at 16.
Yes.
Now, if you're going to be a hired gun, like in my case, I was a hired gun with Ozzy. What better mentors for me than Ozzy, Sharon, or for Ray, Stevie Wonder?
You're right.
What an opportunity to actually take that knowledge, take that experience. Then when you go off to put your own band together or your career, you have this background. Because no matter how much you learn in school, it's academia. It's not experience. Academia will give you the tools to, when it comes time to be experienced, to have all the information that you need to give you that edge. You're prepared information-wise, but not experience-wise. Now, when you get to apply experience, that's where that's the next level. And there's no better experience than to be playing with Stevie Wonder, that prepare Ray Parker, or for Steve Lukather, being a session, you know, hotshot session guitar player for all these records. And when all of a sudden he puts together Toto, he's got all this experience with the other members of Toto who are also studio musicians.
Right.
It's just a matter of what better place to get experience, you know, when you're starting out, than to be to be mentored by all of these great artists. Yeah, I highly recommend it to everybody.
Yeah. Okay. For all the gearheads out there, man, what is your normal gear setup and then your tour gear setup?
Ooh, there's no such a thing as a normal. For me, I everything from strings to basses to amplifiers is pretty much a common thread, just because, you know, Ampeg SVTs, you can find those everywhere. You can go to Romania and somebody will have an Ampeg SVT that they bought in 1970 and it's their prized possession, and they'll rent it out to you and they'll sit on the side of the stage, make sure none of the knobs go beyond with the little marker because they don't want the tubes to blow up, you know, and you're playing this thing that just sounds magnificent. So, you know, and the infrastructure of touring around the world has really improved, and backline companies, they will supply you with, you know, Marshalls and Ludwig and Ampeg and so on, you know, all the major brands, because it's a business now, whereas it wasn't before.
Okay.
And yeah, so, you know, Ampeg SVTs, My bass of choice. I mean, I have a collection of basses, and when I record, I use a specific bass that sometimes is requested by the engineer, sometimes requested by the artist because it's a particular sound that they hear in their head. So, I go, no problem. I have those basses here.
Wow.
Uh, but for playing, I've been playing a Spectre. It's a brand new model of Spectre, and I have my signature model with them, and we're going to retool it to include the one that I'm using now on stage, with a Fishman pickups, which is a brand new system. It's not only the pickups, but it's the preamp that comes with it too. So it's a complete system, because sometimes you buy pickups and then you have to match them with some other preamps, and there's a lot of choices. But
Right.
this one, it's built in a way that one complements the other. The pickup complements the preamp itself,
Sure. Okay. Okay.
and
Right.
the various strings and various pedals. I have dark glass. I love dark glass. I love Boss pedals. I love Tech 21 pedals. And I'm just looking around the room because kind of old here. I use Solo Dallas pedals. You name it. The MXRs. Yeah.
Do you ever get in trouble like with your wife? Does she ever make you take some of your equipment out of the rooms and like, hey, take
We
that stuff to the garage?
we have we have a lot of room in our house. It's yeah. No. Actually, she never gets in. She's not like that.
Right.
Never has been, and yeah, just never has been
Great.
like that.
Great. Out of all these records you've been a part of, man, do you know what the amount of records you've sold
Mm,
as a whole, like out of all
well,
of the?
not in the ones that. Yeah, it's hard to tell nowadays because you don't get the full report anymore because record sales and now it's gone to streaming. But I can tell you, I played on 5 consecutive multi-platinum albums in the
Wow.
80s. In
Wow.
less than 10 years, 5 records. Two of them were live. One of them is Tribute by Ozzy. The other one is Speak of the Devil by Ozzy. Those were live records. And then Mental Health, Quiet Riot, Condition Critical, Quiet Riot, and Slip of the Tongue, White Snake.
Yeah, White Snake. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any tour stories? Like what really sticks out? This might be another hard one for you. Like what's anything funny, weird, funny, whatever you have.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, touring with Ozzy, as a matter of fact, I wrote a book about it. It's not necessarily about touring with Ozzy, but it is about touring with Ozzy because I couldn't write about Randy Rhoads without writing about touring with Ozzy.
yeah,
But I wrote it for Randy. That was my motivation. I wrote it at a time where there was a lot of misinformation and conspiracy theories surrounding Randy's death on the internet.
yeah,
So I just decided, you know what? If I don't clear this up, nobody else will, and lies will become the truth just because it's on the internet. So I wrote the book,
right.
and ever since I wrote the book over 10 years ago, uh, it has dissipated all that misinformation and conspiracy and things like that,
Yeah,
which is I'm so glad because I took a year and a half of my life just to write this book. I mean, I was still on tour, but there's something about writing a page a day. You have to have that uh, consistency and discipline of writing a page a day in order to come up with a book, because you can't procrastinate on a
oh,
book
sure.
because yeah. And so I will be on a day off somewhere in Birmingham, England, and everybody's out there shopping and everything. I will be in my room with my laptop writing the book. There were no days off for me.
Getting the work done.
You have to, yeah.
You mentioned Randy Rhoads, man. When you play like a song with another band, maybe it's a tribute band, or maybe it's a seminar you're at, and you get up there and play a song. Do you ever get the chills? Like, wow,
Of
you
course
know?
you do. Of
Yeah.
course you do. But more than that, you want to make sure that everything you do is top shelf. I mean, I do that anyways, but there's a certain respect that separates things that I do. I mean, let's say I do things 100%, but when it comes to Randy Road, I have to go beyond that. I put it into 200%.
Right, right.
You know, just because it means that much to me.
Yeah.
You know, there's a certain threshold, and then you have to go beyond that threshold.
Yeah, but with your brother Robert, is there any brotherly like rivalry between you guys?
No, he plays guitar, I play bass.
Yeah, yeah. You guys ever say I'm better, I can do this, and like try to show one up on the other? Not the negative, just anything.
Competition? No.
Yeah.
You know, there's never been competition between my brother and me. Maybe it's because we, at a very early age, my mom made it mandatory that we were in a foreign country. You know, we got here in 61. I wasn't even 11 yet, and Robert was about to turn 6 or 5. Wait, yeah, 61. Yeah, he's 4 years younger than me. So if I would turn 11, he would have been 7. Yeah. So he was between 6 and 7 years old. And I had to take care of my brother. And she says, you know, from now on, from this point on, you look out after your brother. So there was never a competitive edge, because how can you compete with your brother when my job was to take care of him,
Right,
look out after him. So it was
right.
a whole different dynamic, you know.
That's basically how my mom was, man, raising 3 of us. She's like, I was in between 2 sisters, so I was like the big brother to the big sister. She's like, take care of your sisters. You're gonna take care of these girls. So that's the same thing. Any advice for upcoming bands?
Well, I mean, it's any advice that I can give really is based on my references on a music industry that does not exist. So I can give you advice, but I think there's better suited people out there who are more currently in the pulse of what's going on. I can only give you advice based on what's considered right now a classic rock musician.
Gotcha. Right,
The
right.
industry has changed. If the industry had not changed,
Yeah,
yes, I can give you pearls of wisdom.
yeah. Well,
But
now,
then, certain things still apply. But I think what the musicians need more today than ever is mentorship from people who are doing it right now. The ones who are currently producing the sounds that are popular,
sure.
uh, whatever structure that happens to be in the industry, in the record industry. I'm not even aware. And you know what? And I have this conversation with many successful people. We're all in the same boat. There used to be a formula. There used to be a formula. There used to be an infrastructure, a structure. And if you have a structure, there's a formula. There used to be a blueprint that you can build something. There's no blueprint anymore.
Right.
Different things work.
Yeah, because hell, like you go to YouTube, you see someone with 95 million views. Back in early 80s or the mid 80s, that was considered 95 million singles, and they would have a jet airplane or something, just from them 95 million, I guess you could say, views or whatever. Now it's just like you have to get a lot of views to get pennies out of it.
Yeah, all in all, a view or a stream, it's basically what you would consider airplay. So you got your music played on a radio back in the day 95 million times.
Sure.
Which there are associations like BMI and ASCAP that will collect for the songwriter money, royalties for that, like 0.00 pennies,
Sure.
And they still do that with Sound Exchange, and what Sound Exchange is for performance, but they still do that for streaming, Spotify and so on. Yeah, for songwriters.
Yeah. Why did you pick up the bass, and how did you get so knowledgeable about it, especially in the era when you picked it up, without internet or even a time when bass was just a rhythm instrument, just a basic instrument.
Yeah, it was way tougher back then because you didn't have the information that so many great teachers and musicians share nowadays. And I go to them. I go to all these great websites. I go to Rick Beato is one of my go-to. And then if I want to get into jazz, there's so many. And then for rock and roll, I mean, but essentially, I can get a pretty good picture from Rick Beato, from technique and theory, music theory. Uh, I mean, there's so many. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I was actually taking a course online from this professor music professor. What he does is he sets up a camera. He's in a college. He sets up the camera, and whatever he's teaching at the class, he puts that online.
Wow.
So so I'm sitting there and going, oh my God. So I'm refreshing everything that I learned in college and then some, because I only took like 1 year of music theory and sight reading, because after that I was playing in bars, and I a lot of stuff that I was learning I was not able to apply because it was I was actually playing more technical music than what was being taught. So I kind of like lost interest and fully dove into the mass communication courses because that was different.
How can our viewers get more of Rudy Sarzo?
Yeah.
Give us some links.
Just follow me on Instagram. They got my radio show on Monsters of Rock Radio. On the main date is always on a Sunday at 4 p.m. That's our anchor date, 4 p.m. PST, which is California time, and on Sundays. And it's about 4 hours of conversation. I mean, I've had anybody from let's see, who did I have lately? Oh yeah, Rick Nielsen. We have Bruce Kulick this week.
Oh wow.
It's always great conversations. We talk about so many different things. But at the core of my show, it's a celebration of the legacy of my guests' music and contributions.
That's great.
Which is the reason why I did it. I mean, like your podcast and what we do and other people's podcasts, where for the very first time we're documenting the lives of creators, artists, in their own words.
Right.
I mean, if you look at Chopin, Bach, even jazz musicians, like there was no Miles Davis podcast, or John Coltrane, or I mean, there's the obscure interviews that they might have done, and they might have, the interviewer might have used a tape recorder, and somebody, 60 years later finds her in the attic. Oh, remember Dad when he was interviewing Miles Davis? Oh, you look, I found the tapes, right?
Wow.
Reel to reel, and they'll put that on YouTube or give it to Downbeat or, some publication to distribute it. But mainly, there's not a whole lot of information out there out of the mouth of these artists. Sure. So when I started doing my show, that still is my motivation for doing, 6 Degrees of Sarzo, just to document in the artist's own words how, when, why, and where are we going from here.
Right on. Any closing words, man?
No, I don't like to close anything. I like to leave it to be continued.
Yeah, to be continued. All right. Well, hey man, I really appreciate your time. It's been a blessing that I got to spend this time with you. I've interviewed a lot of artists, man, but over the years, but you're one of them. You're one of the bucket list, to be honest. So
well, thank you so much, Ross.
It was an honor to be able to sit here with you for this time.
Thank you so much.